Hey, what's up, guys? It's Robster, and this is Gameweek 5 review and recap. Quickly looking at the fixtures and the results from Gameweek 5, and wow, what a game of footy. Standout results is probably Man City's draw against Southampton, the big demolishing win for Chelsea and Spurs as the big game of the weekend, and otherwise, generally, it went according to prediction. Early on, Leeds versus Newcastle, and Leeds are quite struggling this season. They're not doing as well as they're supposed to, or as people predicted they could do. Against a struggling Newcastle side that have been conceding a lot of goals, Leeds only scored one and didn't look too threatening. Their goal was actually a cross that just went in, and it's quite worrying that Leeds, usually a team that scores a lot of goals, aren't scoring as many, and the defense is also not keeping anything out. Their centre-back problems are mounting, and they aren't looking in too good of a shape. The likes of Ayling and Rafinha are big doubts for this weekend, and Bamford is already confirmed out for this weekend coming forward. So it's not looking too good for Leeds. Last week there were concerns of Bamford possibly missing out. He still played this past weekend against Newcastle, but it's already been confirmed that he's definitely missing game week 6. So the prospect for Leeds, even though their fixtures are turning around very nicely now in the following couple of months, they're not looking too good on form-wise. Going down, Brentford surprisingly 2-0 victors against Wolves. Their defense looks unstoppable at the moment. Brentford are looking really, really good. And Wolves are looking quite disappointing. Similar to Leeds, actually, struggling to score goals. But I'm a bit more optimistic with Wolves, and I feel like their play is generally slightly a bit better. Maybe it's a bit of bias, but I still have 2 Wolves people in my team, and I personally believe they're going to be better than Leeds over the next 4 or 5 game weeks. But that was a disappointing result, and I definitely expected more from them against Brentford. Arsenal, just as I predicted, really turned stuff around. 2 back-to-back 1-0 wins, so they're looking really good defensively, and they're finding a way to score a goal. A very nice free kick from Odegaard, and they're looking quite threatening. Very, very stable. Liverpool, another 3-0 win against Crystal Palace, who last week beat Spurs 3-0, isn't it? So, what can you make of Crystal Palace? Don't know. One week they'll beat Spurs 3-0. Does it show if Spurs are good or not? Or does it show if Crystal Palace are good or not? I don't know. But Liverpool were quite convincing. It was a very stale game in a sense. Most of the goals came from set pieces or once-off pieces of brilliance. Not a very open game all around. But 3-0 scoreline, it looks very good for Liverpool. And they did play well, but it's not a dominating 3-0. But still, they got the job done. City against Southampton. City had a couple of chances, but a very disappointing 0-0. And Southampton generally kept them out really, really well defensively. So it was a very stale, no, unpredicted actually, based on City's past 2 home games being 5-0 victories in the Premier League, and just scoring 6 goals against Leipzig in the Champions League before Southampton. You expected goals galore because Southampton are an attacking team too. But unfortunately, it ended up as a 0-0. Going on to Norwich and Watford and the battle of the newly promoted teams, Ismail Sarr came to the rescue. 2 goals for him, and he really took the game on. Very, very scruffy, not high quality game in that sense. Norwich can't find a way to stop conceding goals. Their defense is absolutely shocking. Yes, Timu Pukki got onto the end of a goal, just as he will do throughout the season. But can they fix the defense going forward? I don't know. I predict a solid 20th place for them this season, yet again, unless they make urgent action and probably fire Daniel Farke and try and change their style. Going on to Aston Villa versus Everton. Now, this was quite surprising if you ask me. Aston Villa haven't looked that good yet this season, and Everton have surprisingly looked quite well. But 3-0 victors for Aston Villa. So look quickly. If I'm not mistaken, Everton, that was their first defeat. Yeah, their first defeat. There was 3 victories and a draw. Their first defeat, a 3-0 loss to Aston Villa. So that was quite a surprise for many people. But Aston Villa are looking really, really good. The bright spark of Leon Bailey looks excellent. Even though he got an injury towards the end of the game, he looked really, really good. Going on to Sunday's football and Brighton. 4 victories out of 5. What? That's crazy. They are really, really playing well. Graham Potter's style of play is excellent. They're looking solid defensively. And as I predicted, Leicester, they got a really good goal. Jamie Vardy gives you that, but they haven't been the same attacking threat as they always have been. So my prediction of Brighton being able to keep Leicester at bay proves correct. Yes, I thought it could have been a clean sheet for Brighton actually, but 2-1, they only had one big chance really with Jamie Vardy's, that he scored, but otherwise Leicester weren't that threatening throughout the game. Going through West Ham versus Man United, another game, another goal for Ronaldo. Not too much to say about that game. Another win for Man United away, but it was more to be predicted without Antonio in the lineup after his suspension has now been fully rectified, and he's back for the game against Leeds for Gameweek 7. Oh, sorry, Gameweek 6 coming forward. And then Chelsea versus Spurs, 3-0, and wow. Chelsea looks like a real force this season. It's really setting up nicely that all big four teams are generally doing quite well. City, United, Chelsea and Liverpool are all going to be well into it. Come December and January, I expect those four to be clear as the top four and very much close to each other. And the big games are going to be very decisive. This coming weekend, City versus Chelsea. The following weekend, City versus Liverpool. If City comes and wins both of the next two games, that puts a very big marker down. Listen, we are still the favourites as City. Or if they lose both games, it puts a very big marker down as saying there is no striker. Or are they going to be able to handle it? Losing back-to-back games against their rivals. It's a really, really tough period for City, and it's going to give you a very good indication of how the season's going to go for them based on the next 2 weeks alone. With PSG in between that, it's a very big 3 weeks for Manchester City. Are they going to be title contenders and Champions League contenders? Are Chelsea taking over? Are Liverpool back to their best form with the injuries not there anymore? Getting a very, very exciting lineup. But going on to my FPL team, and as you might know, Ismail Sarr saved the day. As I mentioned, he scored 2 goals, and a 15-point haul for him was absolutely insane. If you can see here, Pep Roulette almost costed me. As I spoke before, 5-0, 5-0, and they scored 6 against Leipzig. City at home have looked absolutely dominating in front of goal. And Ferran Torres has started every single competitive match before Southampton. He started absolutely every single competitive match before Southampton in the Community Shield and the Champions League, and then all of a sudden at Southampton he doesn't play a minute. I'm actually quite happy at the end of the day that he didn't come on for 5-minute cameo and he just completely left out, because that allowed the captaincy to move over to Salah, whose 12 points really helped me a lot. But Pep Roulette could have turned out very, very badly. He could have come on for a 1-minuter. And yeah, I basically learned my lesson. Don't captain someone that has any minute risk. The same with the likes of Jota. Even if his form turns and he scores a hat-trick this weekend, you're not going to captain him next weekend, because all of a sudden Firmino takes his spot. You just never know. People with minute risk, you can't take the risk. And if you look at my bench, Antonio, Trent and Torres, those are 3 very high-priced players, all in the 7 million mark, that didn't play. So in this age of COVID, and in this age of rotation with all the amount of fixtures constantly being packed on top of each other, West Ham playing European football, Liverpool and City all playing European football, plus COVID restrictions and worries, a lot of these stuff is going to happen where your big premium players that you expect are going to play 90 minutes every single match are just not going to play. So how does your bench look? Usually you're going to want your bench to be just 4 million players that don't play at all just to save funds. But now you need to make sure that the people on your bench actually play games. And as you can see there, the likes of Livramento and Duffy, who were probably going to be on my bench if these 3 guys here have played, Duffy and Livramento would have been on my bench. But they came on. 5 points for Livramento with the clean sheet. Duffy got the assist, 5 points there. And Allen, as always, playing 90 minutes, gets 2 points. So it's a stable 12 points from my bench. That is actually quite important to have there. You don't want to have a 4.5 million striker that's not going to play at all. I'm quite happy and vindicated with my decision, all in all. I'm really happy with my defensive performance. White, another clean sheet, and I expect many more coming through there. The Brighton clean sheets will come. They're very good defensively. And I'm going to keep faith with the Wolves. Semedo and Jimenez, I'm going to give them the next 3 or 4 games. Let's see what they do. My biggest worry at the moment is Jota and Ferran Torres. If you're looking forward at Ferran Torres, his fixtures now, Chelsea and Liverpool, don't look like a big return. And Jota, the minutes risk is there. And 3 games in a row with no goal. You would have banked on Leeds and Crystal Palace as games where he could get onto the end of it. Yes, he assisted Mane a couple of times, but Mane couldn't finish in the Leeds game. But all in all, it's back-to-back starts and no return. So it's quite a worry for Jota. But against the likes of Brentford, it's very important for me. Because if he doesn't bank against Brentford and score something, then there's a big possibility of taking him out as they play City, United, and West Ham 3 out of the next 5. Not the most difficult fixture run, but there is quite big fixtures. And if the likes of Rafinha is cleared fully fit after this weekend and he's looking sharp, Jota's place is maybe in risk. At that mark of 7.7 at the moment already, he's in there with the likes of Pogba and the likes of Greenwood, some really solid players. The likes of Gray and Gallagher at the lower price down, or Rafinha. There's a lot of players you can move Jota and Torres to. So as soon as their minute risks start becoming too much of a risk, that's going to be my first sign to move them on. Another prospect for me looking forward is how am I going to get the Chelsea boys into my team? I need to get the likes of Rudiger or James into my team, possibly Chilwell or Alonso, but there is a rotation risk with that left back position. And then I want to get Lukaku into my team. He's looking really, really good. But can you take out Ronaldo? His form's been so good. But if you look at this fixture run of a year, Liverpool, Tottenham, and City, those 3 games in a row, and the games before and after them aren't the easiest either. But is Ronaldo a rotation risk? He'll probably score in all those games anyway, based on the current form. So it's a big dilemma at the moment. And I'm still very much undecided, especially with Leeds' form. It's caused big question marks in my team. There's a lot of people was waiting to get the Leeds boys in for their fixtures that turned now. But their form is bad and there's injury risks on all of their key marquee players. So what should you do? I don't know, but Game Week 5 turned out not so bad for me. Another big green arrow going up. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting at about 1.9 million. After last weekend, I jumped to 1.3 million. And after Game Week 5, a solid Game Week 5, I'm now up to in the 900,000s. So the wild card definitely impacted, and it gave me an instant impact of basically 1 million places improvement over 2 weeks. So I'm really happy, but I must not rest on my laurels, and I must make sure that I make the next few transfers really, really well and key, so that I can keep maintaining that 70-point mark and I can keep pushing up, getting higher up into the 100k mark. So it's a very important Game Week 6 coming up, but Game Week 5, all in all, I can only be pleased. Sarr came to the day and rescued me. Pep Roulette almost costed it all, but Salah, Mr. Consistent, pulled through and rescued my Game Week 5. I'll see you guys soon for my Game Week 6 team selection and my captaincy. Am I going to risk it again with Torres? Highly doubt it. But let's see who's my captaincy option. And am I going to make any transfers? Jota, Torres, there's question marks. Torres has already lost a 0.1 million because of price reduction. So we'll talk about that in the next video. Take care. See you guys soon.